stage is set, and I want us to now move into MSL Super Night, which is a very interesting concept. We usually do this separately in different cities, but it's now clubbed along with Praxis. So what is this? So the MSL Super Night actually has two segments. One is a knowledge-rich session, and the second one is a fun evening part. So for the first part of this MSL Super Nights, we have Score Insights in association with MSL India. They conducted a study and created a white paper on the future of Indian PR. The findings of this white paper will be revealed here tonight, and that will be followed by a panel discussion. And the discussion will be on the future of Indian PR, the next 25. So for presenting the white paper, I request Hemant Gaule, the Dean of SCORE, School of Communications and Reputation. Yeah, I think you're going to get some really good marks. No, give it up for your Dean, Mr. Hemant Gaule.
Thank you. It's not going to work. Okay, thanks, Kiruba. 25 years is a really long time. 25 years ago, the most viral thing was the common cold. 25 years ago, my students weren't born. And a lot of things have changed in 25 years. The only thing that has not changed in the last 25 years is that our relatives still don't know what PR is and what we do. But that was the question in our minds when we started out with this study. We wanted to figure out what the next 25 years of PR might look like. And we spent the last 3 months talking to a lot of people to try and figure that out. And over the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to share the findings of that study with you, and then we'll get into a panel discussion on the implications of those findings. And when we were exploring this question, we spoke to 100 plus stakeholders from more than 15 sectors, representing over 100 organizations, and we collected more than 30 data points. And many of the people that we spoke to are in this room today, so thank you for your contributions. And those data points were trying to figure out a few things about what the world of reputation management might look like in the next 25 years, particularly what would be the dynamics of reputation, what kind of stakeholder systems, ecosystems that we might expect, how will they evolve from where they are today. We wanted to see the interdependency and codependency of brands and communicators and these stakeholders within these ecosystems. We wanted to see a number of trends that people predict, from challenges, opportunities, and what the outlook of PR might be. And most importantly, we wanted to see the competencies that might govern future readiness for PR, and that's really an integral input for us as an institute because this is what we seed into our education curricula. So this is what we found. We have concised our findings into 5 pillars of reputation that you can expect over the next 25 years. Each pillar has 5 strategic trends that we have forecasted, and there are also 5 recommendations that we are making for communicators for the next 25 years. The first 2 parts are something that I'm going to reveal today very quickly. The recommendations and a bunch of other things that we have deep dived into are in the white paper, which will be available at the end of this conversation. So let me jump right into what our findings are and talk about these 5 pillars and 25 strategic trends for the next 25 years in Indian PR. The first pillar is on technology and innovation, and no conversation is complete without mentioning AI. But more specifically, what we discovered was that thanks to AI, in the near future, there are going to be job losses. But in the long run, it's going to create a lot of jobs, and particularly in terms of creating our efficiency and amplifying the kind of work that we do, it's going to be a net positive thing. The second aspect was on the quality and quantity of data that is going to be available to us. Already, we are seeing a very great increase in the kind of things that we analyze and understand about our ecosystems. And the data that is likely to come to us in the future is going to help us segment our audiences better and target our messaging better as well. The third aspect was on the way digital platforms exist right now, and they will exist in the next 25 years. The platforms that we see today might not exist, and the platforms which will be integral 25 years from now have probably not been invented yet. But one thing is going to remain consistent across it, that all these platforms and the engagement on these platforms is going to be driven by a zest for social validation and meaningful collaboration, and that's something I'll talk about in a bit. The fourth aspect is on the ethical side of technology, and it's about ethically using the technologies available to us, but also reconciling the impact of unethical use of technology by actors around us. And the fifth aspect is on automation that will allow us to create and distribute content at a huge scale. The second pillar is around consumer behavior and how that will evolve, particularly the pace with which consumer behavior preferences change. That pace is going to increase. We are going to go from a period of customer care to customer delight, and nothing short of that would be expected. We are also going to see a need for meaningful social engagement across various stakeholders. And of course, thanks to all the AI and automation technologies available to us, our ability to personalize communications, not just in terms of the content and key messaging, but also in terms of the ability to send our messaging directly to the people that are relevant to us, that's going to increase also. And finally, there's been a lot of predictions around the gamification of content. We see that in fragments right now. We will probably see a lot more of that in the next 25 years, particularly driven by brands, and those brands are going to focus a lot on gamification of the content that they create. The third pillar is on reputation and crisis. One of the things that we saw in our research was the role of the CCO is going to be paramount. Reputation is going to be recognized more and more as a strategic asset. And therefore, the CCO's role is going to spread from not just executing projects, but to also advising essential businesses for business success. The second aspect was on crisis preparedness, and not just on responding to crises, but also being able to preempt those crises and having the right kind of architecture in the organizations to address those crises effectively. The third aspect is on the ethical communications of PR itself. And the idea here being that with the increasing transparency of the communications that brands do specifically, or organizations do in general, it's going to be increasingly important for people to be ethical, and unethical conduct is going to be recognized easily and going to be called out immediately. The fourth aspect is on the inclusiveness of the engagement that is built by CCOs, particularly ensuring that all stakeholders are recognized and their needs are reconciled, as well as these strategies work together very cohesively and in an integrated way. The fifth aspect was on measurement. Like I said, the kind of data that we collect, the quantity and quality of that data is going to increase, and we are probably going to get closer to being able to provide the measurable success of PR as an outcome. And there are conversations that are about moving from return on investment to return on objectives, and that's something going to happen quite soon also. The fourth aspect is on CSR and sustainability, within which conducting PR with purpose is going to be one of the most important things. And one of the predictions that was made was that the idea of greenwashing and some of these other things that brands sometimes find themselves in is going to be an increasingly big gray area to operate in, and therefore brands will be expected to meaningfully engage people on the purpose of the organization. We heard Anita speak about employee happiness and the importance of employee engagement earlier. And that's going to be a central theme. One of the major predictions from CCOs was that most of our campaigns are going to be driven around employees, and our employees are going to be ambassadors for the brands that we foresee. The third aspect is on creating this ethical sphere around ourselves. So this is going to be super important as well, and we deep dive extensively in our study in the specific areas of ethics that are important right now and that are likely to be important in the next 25 years. The fourth area was the need for CCOs to recognize not just their ecosystem around their organization, but also the ecosystems of those stakeholders involved. And it's going to be an increasingly important competence to be able to understand businesses and to be able to see these stakeholders and involve their needs into their communication strategies as well. And there's going to be a big need for social proof. So a lot of CCOs in our research suggested that it's not enough to provide proof in terms of ROI, in terms of AVE, or in terms of coverages. It's going to be increasingly important for business leaders and especially leadership boards to recognize in a social manner the impact that is being created by CCOs. The fifth pillar is something that we kind of categorize into future-proofing. So, and one of the most important aspects of that is going to be the ability of CCOs to forecast future, to be able to see what are the strategies that will help them overcome any challenges that they might see on the horizon. The second aspect of it was thinking globally and acting locally as well. And this aspect is super important for a diverse demography as India, and one of the most important aspects of communications within this study that we discovered was the fact that CCO's biggest challenge is to reconcile the demographic dividend and the differences in terms of languages and cultures and bring that into a common strategy, especially for large organizations. Third aspect was that knowledge is going to be power. So this is going to be the single biggest pillar of future-proofing an organization, and that is going to be a sort of a strategy that is top-down. So it's going to be the leaders of the business that are going to lead that, and the rest of the organization must follow. The fourth aspect was around cultural nuances, and again, this is very specific to Indian PR. There are some interesting quotes that we have in our white paper around how it's so important and equally complex to reconcile these cultural nuances within India especially, and to make sure that the strategies reflect those nuances. And the fifth aspect, and I think we have heard a couple of speakers speak about this earlier, is around storytelling and the power of storytelling, specifically that you tell stories that they want to hear, our audiences want to hear, and not the ones that you want to tell. So these are the 5 pillars, and these are the 25 strategic trends that we have forecasted. We deep dive into these in our white paper. You can download this on our link provided in the screen here, scoreindia.org/insights. Or those of you who can, especially those sitting at the back next to the screens, you can scan this QR code, and you'll get a copy of this white paper with you as well. So that's it from my side, and now we are ready for our panel.
Thank you, Hemant, for those insights. I want to invite the following panelists. Piyali Reddy, Head of Corporate Communications at Axis Bank. We'd love to have you on stage. Ruchita Masrani, Associate Vice President at MSL India. Congratulations on 25 years of MSL. Ruchita, we'd love to have you on stage. Sandeep Fernandes, Head of Communications at Skoda India, and moderating the panel will be Hemant Gaule.
Thanks for joining us. I have a few questions, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, particularly on the findings of this study. And one of the things that the study forecasts is an increasingly high recognition of reputation as a strategic asset. So Piyali, can we start with you to see, do you see that happening in the moment? And in your opinion, how will reputation as an asset manifest in driving organizational success?
I think it's very, very relevant today as we talk about PR and communications. I feel reputation management is just, getting more and more important by the day, and that I think all of us are, will agree to it without any doubt. And that's because you can see it on a day-to-day basis when we, in your work, the way reputation management or PR and communications was perceived at a certain level, right? Even a few years back, it's very different today. So you can see that discussions about the reputation of the company, the brand, etc., is happening not just between the communication teams or the marketing teams, or even the risk teams, whenever there is a crisis situation. It is actually, getting discussed at a broader level with the management, the top management getting involved in every step, the CEO, also the board. So the board level discussions are happening at every, very, very frequently on what reputation, impact is there for a certain, any kind of situation. So I totally agree that reputation management is going up the ladder in terms of its importance. And I feel, a couple of points that I would like to make over here, Hemant. One is that when it comes to reputation management or even, taking the accountability for reputation management, it cannot be just one team. It cannot be the corporate communications team or the marketing team or the risk team or whichever. Not one team, not one individual, not just the CEO. It cannot be at an individual level. It has to be by the entire organization. So the entire organization needs to rally behind the brand. So it cannot be just the brand ambassadors, a one-off situation that comes in where somebody just supports the brand, some influencer. The entire employee support has to be there for the brand. Only then it can go to the next level. And this is something, this is exactly where employee advocacy comes in, and I think you touched on that point in the report. And if you're able to really leverage that, I think employee advocacy can be the biggest boon that you can have in an organization. That's number one. Second is that, we're talking about a world today, of course, the term VUCA world, that was created probably in the 1900s, but it is still relevant. It is still relevant, and more so today because of the ambiguity, the volatility, the chaotic nature of things, whether you look at the geopolitical situation today or the economic, socio-economic impact that you have. And it's a global world. I mean, there is nothing like, oh, this is happening in the other part of the world, so this is not going to impact us. Everything impacts us. Everything has a repercussion with what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So here again, I think the most critical factor would be crisis management, making sure that we have a full-fledged situation, a way to really manage your crisis situations, your reputation issues that may come up. And for large organizations, medium organizations, this is something that we deal with almost on a daily basis. It has just increased over the years. I feel that is something that, again, you have to take note of. And without the right apparatus, without knowing that, okay, this is exactly how you tackle situations when it comes, whether simulation exercises are there or, whether you have a full protocol of how, different situations have to be dealt with, this is going to be one of the essentials of, planning it out well and tackling reputation management. And a third, I just thought that this is very important here, the effect and the impact of social media. While the opportunity is huge, and I was reading up somewhere that people usually spend about 145 minutes on an average on social media, internet and social media, and about 90% of people actually follow a brand. About 75% people make purchases on social media. So there are umpteen number of statistics which just says that it's a huge opportunity there, but there are equal number of challenges, and I don't think any of us would disagree with that. So the whole point is to also leverage, while leveraging all the opportunities out there, the challenges have to be looked into very, very critically. And it's one thing that really stands out. It's a game changer in my mind. And a final word is that I know technology is going to play a bigger role. AI is going to play a very big role. But as we progress, I think the human touch is going to become more and more important, because that's going to set you apart. That's going to really make you stand out.
Thanks for that. So, Sandeep, if we can come to you. As a result of this, these aspects, we spoke about it earlier. How do you see the dynamics of clients and consultancies changing, and what do you think needs to change in order for this potential asset of reputation to be fully utilized?
Okay, so before I start, two things. One is I realized that the four of us stand between the opening of the bar and all of you. So I'm going to try to keep it a little light. I can see people a bit frisky now. Second thing is that I'm really in awe of people who can speak so eloquently on stage. Great points, Hemant. I was the first batch of BMM, and we had a lot of presentations, right? I shared this with MSL also. So I used to read from a paper, and one day I said, no, I'm not going to read. I had 5 lines, and there were 20 people in front of me, and I froze. And then from that day on, I was called in conclusion in college. The reason I'm here is that I feel really passionate about, what can be done with PR. Over the last 20 odd years, when I started my career, incidentally at Hanmer, I didn't realize MSL has sponsored it, so I'm here. I thought it was for the great work I was doing, but anyways, thank you. Yeah, but so we would go for these NBD presentations, right, to pitch, and there was always the last 3 slides, which is the big idea. And I was most excited about the big idea. So I would like work really hard, creative, super ideas. I thought they were super ideas. And then by the time we reached that stage, after saying, we'll do so many bridge building meetings, whatever interviews and whatever else, press releases and all. So I have my part, and then the client would say, yeah, it's okay. So I was like, so I asked my boss, why aren't they interested? He's like, no, that's not our job. That's marketing job. I said, okay. But I said, just then मैं brand पे जाएगा मैं करेगा big idea. That was my thing, and for that you need a team, right? So I think from whatever I've heard from my friends who are in brand, we take ourselves a bit too seriously. We say agency ko kuch pata nahi. People in the agency share similar sentiments that client pagal hai. I'm using a politically correct word. The adjectives are much more sort of heartfelt. And if you look at it in isolation, both are correct, right? So we are crazy, and so is the agency. They have so many more things. So what I try to do at Skoda is get everybody together, right? And so we had great partners in MSL now for the last at least 3 years, I think. We have a great digital agency called Nutcracker, and we work together. So they understand when we are launching a car, why we are launching the car, what's happening. So we are launching a new car now. So there was the MSL guy, great guy called Sriram, who writes brilliant content, and Udit from Nutcracker. We went to the plant together. They understood why our cars are safe. Like they understood what is the money that goes into the car. They understood how much money we are spending in the car. They met all the HODs from the plant. And that's when you can tell a story, right? Otherwise, you say media, do the interview, you give them key messaging, the headline comes, then we pay somebody to evaluate the headline that we already know is going to come. And, it's of no use if you don't know what you're talking about. So that's number one. So I'll just now, basically a triangle, and Ankit, who's sitting in the front row, taught me a very important word called entrenched. It's a big word. He said that we are not entrenched. So, and I think I used it a lot, on a lighter note, but I think that from the brand side, our job is to ensure that the agency is entrenched in what we do. They have complete, insights into what we do, and that leads to accountability. When you have accountability, I'll go to the C first and then come to the B, so ABC. So C is, then the relationship gets more collaborative rather than combative. And the thirdly, I don't know if you guys agree or not, I think budget. We in PR take great pride in saying that, I know one famous gentleman said that if I had my last dollar, I would put it in PR, but he should spend his last 10 million in PR because, if you need to really take, you can clap, the bar's going to open soon. Thank you. So I'm saying that, okay, you want to do a big, you understand the business, then you can get big ideas. You get big ideas, you can impact the business. For that, you need budget. The job of the person in brand, however, I'm not going to say client, that's giving them too much credit, us, sorry. But the job of the guy in the brand is to convince the management of what exactly PR can do. I'll talk in the next part about what we are doing at least. So you get good budget. When you get good budget, you pay your agencies well, right? Then one guy is not trying to pitch new business and he's like doing 10 things. Then he can focus his attention on your account, right? And when they do that, they are able to pay the employees more. So the talent retains, you can retain good talent. They're not jumping for 10,000 rupees. And at least that's what we are doing. I think most of the people in our account, have been there for 3 years. Super efficient people. They don't go by Excel sheet. 10 press release karega, ye 11 wala hai. They call customers. They do whatever we want, whatever they feel they need to do. And I think that's how the client, relationship should be. Last line, saas bhi kabhi bahu thi. If any of you from agency go to client, don't become the saas above whatever it is. Just be cool with the agency, and that's how I think the relationship can flourish. Yeah, I think.
You said you didn't speak eloquently.
No, I'm passionate, so I'm.
Great. So Ruchita, there's obviously a lot of insight there on how that relationship should work. What do you think role of PR consultants is, and how do you think that can evolve better to make this relationship better?
I feel like reputation management has always been a very important part of what we do in PR, right? It's very integral to us. So I feel like this recognition will just strengthen our play. Like PR can now become an integral part of the whole strategy process from the start, rather than sometimes brands look at us as this amplification tool. And it is changing, of course, and I feel like pandemic has really, gotten that change started, because that is the time I believe that, brands really saw, like, if you have strong reputation, what can it, how can it affect you? How can it weather crisis? How can it build trust within your stakeholders? So I believe that, PR and reputation go together. On your second part of your question, where, what are some of the changes? I feel like more than changes, I think our focus points will evolve. I think if we are able to measure the impact of all the PR work we do, there's so much effort that goes in on the reputation of a brand, then there's proof point, right? Then they will be more inclined to invest in PR. I feel like the other aspect is PR professionals. Like, I feel like all of us are speaking similar things, but like you mentioned, we need to work very closely with business leaders so that we at least know that all these efforts that we're making have some impact on the organization's overall goals, right? And I feel like if we know we're making an impact, we'll also work harder. And the last part, I feel like, is overlapping with yours. I feel like, of course, we are working towards trending reputation. But a very important part here is just safeguarding reputation, right? And that's where crisis plays a very important role. And, we have so many brands who have an always-on crisis preparedness model. Some come to us when an issue pops up. But I feel like in today's environment, in this whole digital-first environment we are in, I think crisis preparedness should be a non-negotiable. Every brand should have a strategy in place. So those are some of my points here.
Interesting. I'm going to come to the second aspect of influence that was discovered in the report, and I'll stick with you, Ruchita. We saw fragmentation of influence across different types of media, thought leaders, etc. Are you seeing that right now? And you launched the Bharat Z report a few weeks ago. And you see that right now, and what do you see the next few years might look like for the kind of services that you might have to provide?
Like, surely, Hemant, like, I think all of us have seen it, right? Like, we've been speaking so much about influencers, and we've been speaking so much about KOLs, and there is this whole democratization of content creation that has happened, right? Where from traditional media holding the complete influence, now influence is spread out across many more mediums. And I feel like some of us at the PR firms have already understood that and slightly evolved, where we know we want to find that sweet spot between owned and earned. It's not that, traditional media is not important. And it's just about re-establishing that balance between traditional media, what is the role that it will play, and what are the new age mediums, and what is the role they will play, right? And something that we did at MSL, like you were speaking about, is the service that we launched, Mojo. Now, Mojo is what? It's a culture-first service where we're telling our clients that we're going to use data to find great insights and create a narrative that will really differentiate your brand, and then take it across mediums. Now, these mediums can be new age media, they can be even a mix of traditional, it can be LinkedIn posts, it can be thought leadership, it can be podcasts, it can be partnerships, right? And I feel like that's where the progression is, and those are the newer services that everybody is focusing on today.
So, Sandeep, that's a whole array of spectrum of things that you could do. Does that make your job complex, and how do you plan on ensuring that you stay ahead of the curve with this fragmented sort of landscape of influence?
Yeah, so, so generally PR is always related with earned media, and I was studying a couple of years back, and I chanced upon this PESO model. So we're anyways doing things related to it, but PESO is, for some of you know it is paid, earned, shared, and owned, right? And I think that that paid. I mean, I heard the question in the earlier session as well. You know, on influencers, especially in the sort of industry that we are in, there's been this sudden rise of influencers, and they charge a lot of money, you know, to talk about the brand. But so the way I see it is that, of course, you have a budget to sort of present an idea. It can't be done, especially for a brand like Skoda. It might not be with other brands, but you know, so Skoda customers are really passionate. I mean, I already met a few colleagues here who, you know, came to me and very excitedly saying that they really love Skoda cars. And so I'm just saying that how we are moving it a little beyond, you know, media, influencers, and the rest is that we are looking at people who invest in us, right? When you buy a car, you're spending, you know, upwards of, you know, 10, 15, 20 lakhs, 40 lakhs in case of the Kodiak. So you're putting your money and your trust in the brand, and the kind of insights that you get from them are a lot, because they are driving your car day in and day out. So I'll give you maybe one example of what we did at Skoda, again done by the PR and digital PR teams. Is that when we do a new car launch, we present the car and we have a company spokesperson present it to the media. We just follow the same format. We call customers, about 40 of them, and we converted on a very high-end car, 4 million, 40 lakh car. We had, you know, a 50% conversion. So we did a pilot for 3 months. The customers were called and sort of pitched, because we wanted to see if this model works. So the script, from the scripting to the pitching of the idea to talking to customers, was all done by MSL and Nutcracker. You know, they understood what the customer wants. They met customers, and they just did what they do with media to customers. So you're just transferring, you know, what you do with one set to the other. So I said, of course, I mean, and we are doing now something really big in the next couple of months. I hope it works out, but that will be the next level. I don't know if there's a video, if I can play it.
भारत हमारी ऐतिहासिक मातृभूमि, उसके लोग, उनकी कल्पनाएं और उनके अनगिनत लक्ष्य, अनंत सफरों का देश, खोज का नया दौर। इसी उमंग के साथ आई है हमारी नई एसयूवी, एक गतिशील देश का भरोसेमंद साथी, जिसे नाम देने का जिम्मा हमने आपको सौंपा और आपने चुना। शिखर की ऊंचाई से उत्साहित, संस्कृत में कैलाश से प्रेरित और भारतीयों की आशाओं से निर्मित स्कोडा काइलैक, आपकी एसयूवी।
Yeah, so why, you either clap or don't clap. You clap, then clap hard. Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice film, you can clap, made by our fraternity. So, okay, 3 things I'll talk about this. One is that when you look at this, you think that somebody else has made it, right? I'm not going to name the department, but you think that that department has made it. But this was made by PR, 1. 2 is that we had PR, when I say PR, I mean digital agency, traditional agency. We had a lot of, it was a 3-minute film, then we thought, you know, what we should do, how we should name it. We had the storyboarding that, you know, we should link it to India, progressive, and then the film. Then we said that, you know, this is a car that we need to go to tier 2, 3, 4 markets. So that's why we played Hindi. We had it in 12 languages. Then the idea came of Kabir Bedi. I'm sure if you recognize his voice, and scripting, CG in the end. All that costs money, which is why I said again that you need budget. So this is just to show you that, I don't know how many of you are doing it. I was on the jury also of Praxis. I saw a lot of awards. I don't know whether they are, I mean, some I knew are not PR. But when we put our work for awards, it should be stuff that we've ideated, budgeted, executed, and then I think we can evolve. Yeah, but that's it. Fragmented for sure. Oh, that's time. Oh.
No, that's 5 minutes.
Okay, fine. Okay,
time.
all right. Yeah, so yeah, it is evolving. We need to adapt, and we need budget for that.
Okay, Piyali, in your opinion.
Okay, the first thing is that I just feel that you're the best employee advocacy, the example of employee advocacy, you know, the best that you can see. And I'm already sold on a Skoda car. That's the first thing I'm going to do after going from here. So well, I think we already have a problem of time, limitation of time. See, one thing that has stood out for me, you know, the last couple of years is that everything is becoming more and more integrated. Now there are no clear lines, okay? Their lines are blurry, and you cannot really say who is doing what. I mean, who needs to do what? Like, for example, he spoke about and you know, showed us this beautiful film. And he said that this has been done by your department, like the PR department. There could be other organizations where it is done by some other department. But that is not the case. What I'm trying to say is that everything is becoming integrated. Who we are trying to talk to is also, the audience is also quite fragmented. So we have to, when we are drawing up our plans, it cannot be just one stakeholder that we have in mind. We have to, create an all-encompassing plan which kind of takes into account everything, whether it's media, digital media, advocacy, maybe industry body, especially for industries and organizations which are into a highly regulated space. So it's an all-encompassing strategy that works over here. It's no more fragmented. It cannot be just a one idea. It cannot be only traditional media, only digital media, only social media. It has to be a holistic plan that will work, and that's what we have been doing in our bank as well. And it definitely works much better than individual piecemeal kind of an approach.
Interesting. So I'll just ask my last question, sharp. What's the one big prediction that you have for the next 25 years of PR? And what's the one big skill that a communicator of today must own? And that's a question for everybody we can do.
So I think one thing is for sure that PR and communications will only become bigger, stronger, better. That's what I feel. Reputation management is going to become more and more important for companies. That's definitely one trend. And one thing that we have to, as PR professionals, I think technology and AI, etc., everything, all of these things are really going to take a lot of attention, because that's where all the development is happening. And you cannot, every stream is getting, every department is getting impacted by that. And if you don't do it, or if you don't utilize it, then you are obviously not going to stay ahead of the curve. So it's a must-do. And having that understanding of technology, generative AI, data science, data analytics, measurement, all of it put together, it's going to become more and more important, and you need to have that skill amongst your people.
Ruchita?
So I'll start with the prediction first. I feel like, I don't know if it's much of a prediction, but I feel like over the next few years, I feel like PR's role is going to be of how do we deliver trust, right? I feel like what has happened is today, whatever we see, we hardly believe. Like we've been speaking, I think, in Anupriya's session, there was a lot about if we open influencer content, half of we feel like it's paid, right? Or even the media channels that we use and we take content from, we don't know if there is if all the content that we are reading is true, right? So I believe that out here, PR will play a very, very important role of where we, through authentic narratives, through using data, understanding the audience, will be able to deliver on that trust, because that is when your audience will really believe in you. So I think that's one aspect. And on the skill, I feel like it's going to be about how do we play with data, because I feel like just how do we learn how to slice and dice data to land at something is going to become very, very important.
Interesting.
Yeah, so on the prediction, I'm not going to get into where PR is going. I think Praxis 2030 will have 1,000 people. Three things only, since I think we have 2 minutes left. I'll just touch upon the values that I think, at least I think we are trying to establish, at the place we work. One is, like I'll quote Shah Rukh Khan from Rise, कोई काम बड़ा या छोटा नहीं होता और काम से ऊपर कोई धर्म नहीं होता. That, no work is big or small, and, no religion is bigger than work. Oftentimes, especially, people who are just starting 5-10 years say, this is not my job, that's not my job. Everything is your job, do it well, and, it works well, it's worked well for me, I'm sure it will for you. Two is that I think we should have, this I learned from my wife. She told me that I need to be more empathetic. So I tried, and it just basically means that put yourself in the other person's shoes. So when you're in the brand, put yourself in the agency shoes. You were there once, and on the other side, you don't put yourself in their shoes. It's not worth it. But no, I'm just saying that ego thoda jeb mein rakho, you know. And the third part is you should have fun. Have fun with what you do, and then you know I think everything works itself out. So yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the insights, and very happy Silver Jubilee to MSL. Thank you.